Here's a Beyond the Pitch podcast quick hit from the WVSA Digital Network.
One of the things that I think is so crucial is really keeping it simple. So I'll tell you that for my son's first football practice this last fall, he's 6 years old, I was so impressed with his coach because it was almost like an art with how simple he was able to make his feedback. In an entire practice that lasted for an hour, we walked away with 5 points. And they were little things like catch the ball with your eyes. So then in the car on the way home, I could quiz my son. Hey, what did you learn today? And then when he's practicing in the backyard with his dad, hey, what did coach tell you? And he could remember those things because developmentally, that really younger kind of youth age needs to keep it simple, and it needs to be catchy and a phrase that both the child and their parent can kind of reinforce when they're not in front of coach. When you start throwing a whole lot of things at young kids who developmentally can't handle it, then they can't absorb what it is that you're saying. And so it's really not helpful feedback. And I would say another thing that's really important is make sure as a coach that you're attending to the nonverbals. So when we communicate with anyone, about 38% of what it is that we get from that communication is from the actual verbal information that comes out of their mouth. The entire rest of what it is that we get from that communication comes from nonverbals, which we don't tend to pay attention to. But if I'm telling my 7-year-old that I'm not angry with them at the same time that I'm puffing up my chest and throwing my hands down and raising my voice, that child is not hearing that I'm not angry with them, that they made a mistake. That child is hearing that they are the worst kid in the world and that I'm very scary and intimidating and they should be afraid of me. And so as that youth coach, if you can keep things very simple, if you can have a good attention to your own nonverbals as well as the child's. How are they responding? If you're trying to give them feedback but they're getting really distractible, use that as information to help you. Maybe you're overloading them. Maybe you've gone, you're just trying to give them feedback about something that they don't have the capacity to understand yet. Maybe they're distracted because there's other stuff going on in their life and they don't know how to ask for help. I mean, there's so many things that can be coming out of that you as a coach, if you can pay attention to those nonverbals, you can really deepen the communication and do a lot of good to use it effectively. And then the last thing that I would say for those younger youth coaches is make sure you have reasonable expectations. Children are not miniature adults. They don't process information the same way that we do. They haven't had the life experiences that we've had to understand sport in the way that we do. We really have to be cognizant of understanding, maybe they aren't getting along with their teammates, but it's because they haven't yet built that capacity to take somebody else's perspective and really understand it. Maybe they seem like they're overly energetic in practice and they're undisciplined and all of those kinds of things. But perhaps that's because they've been trying to sit in front of a computer and learn all day long, and that's just not developmentally appropriate for them. And they need good 10 minutes at the beginning of practice to just run and let that energy out. If we can really make sure that we're having those reasonable expectations and that we're meeting them where they are and communicating them in the way that they can understand, not in the way that is most comfortable for us, then I think we can be much more effective coaches.